Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Volquest Mailbag podcast. Just a couple more sleeps until it is football time for Tennessee in Atlanta, Georgia against the Syracuse Orange. We'll be with you every single step of the way, Volquest.com, every day anyway, but certainly leading up to kickoff, during kickoff, and after the final whistle blows on Saturday for the opening weekend of college football. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brett Hobbs, Austin Price, and Grant Ramey. We got loads of questions to get into here this morning, so let's start with Sam Smith, 2233. Who on the Syracuse offense scares you? Brent, I think that on paper there's probably just one right now, and that'd be a transfer in Jonte Cook, right?
Well, I mean, he's super talented, but yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see what Daryl Gill looks like. He averaged 18.4 yards a catch to lead the ACC last year. He's their big play guy. I think that one is a bit of a who is he? The sophomore tailback, Yasan Willis, is 235 pounds. It's kind of a bigger guy. Tennessee's done more thudding than they have tackling in the preseason. What does tackling look like in game one, particularly against a back that's pushing 235, 240 pounds? So, I mean, I probably would start there. I mean, I think Cook in the slot, what's that going to be? Austin, everybody knows what his talent is. It's been a journey for him. Is he settled in and kind of where he needs to be with this program compared to where he was at Washington, compared to what he was at Texas? Talent-wise, there's no doubt he's got a lot of talent. It's been that way since he came out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, has he stacked enough days up?
That's exactly right. Has he stacked days? It's all about stacking days, AP.
The unknowns of Syracuse probably would scare me a little bit if I were Tim Banks, just because you don't know exactly what they are. But at the same time, they don't have any continuity either, and your defense does. And I think that goes a long way to having success. What's Angeli look like? At the quarterback spot. I mean, he did some decent things at Notre Dame, but he was by no means a world beater. Which is why he left, which is why they went in a different direction. And so they do have some players that can stretch the field. Cook, obviously is one of them. You mentioned the other kid. That would be a little bit problematic because I think you got to have good safety play on the back end of the defense to make sure they don't beat you over the top. And that's something I think you have to avoid if you're Tennessee is giving up big chunk plays to Syracuse to get them down the field. I think if you're saying Syracuse is going to dink and dunk it against you, you feel really comfortable with that.
My answer was the unknowns. I didn't have a player, but it's the unknowns. It's trying to prepare for a quarterback based on limited Notre Dame tape. It's, do they play Ricky Collins at all if Angeli struggles, or do they have any plans for Ricky Collins? I think he was named the starter back in the spring. Coming out of spring football, so obviously they have to feel pretty good there as well. So it's just the unknowns, which I think everybody is facing in this era going into week one.
Yeah, Ricky Collins his legs are a huge factor. I mean, do they put a package in for him so that they've got a bit of a running quarterback? I mean, you just never know the wrinkles that are going to show up in game one for sure.
How good was Syracuse's offense last year? Specifically the passing game. Daryl Gill, who Brent mentioned. He wasn't even on the field all the time. Like, he was the fourth, fifth option a lot of the time, and he still had, as Brent mentioned, 18 yards per reception or whatever it was, 570 yards, 31 receptions. Put that into context. What was it? Tennessee's leading receiver last year, I think, had like 34 receptions. I don't know what it was, but it just goes to show you how good they were throwing the football with all that turnover. But of course, Gill returns, and Jonte Cook is a new guy, and we'll see if he can break through for him. Similar question, but for Tennessee. This is from RDVOL. Who on Tennessee's offense scares opposing defenses?
Grant, I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe Mike Matthews, but I mean, nobody's got evidence. I mean, I don't think there's evidence of anything on tape right now if you're Syracuse that you go, man, we got to double that guy. That guy scares us to death.
Same thing can be said for Cook, though. I mean, he didn't do anything on tape either that makes you feel that he's super scary.
Yeah, right. But I just think that again, there's not a known. I mean, Syracuse has the Gill kid who averaged 18 yards of reception coming back, who had 30 catches. Tennessee doesn't have anybody like that on the receiving roster in terms of numbers. So you're hoping somebody emerges early in this game that is a threat that people have to deal with.
Maybe one of the tight ends, just because Tennessee lost Dylan Sampson at running back, is kind of starting over at wide receiver. There's talent there. I don't think you expect tight ends to just make game-breaking plays and huge explosive plays all over the field and all that stuff, but that could be somewhere that Tennessee kind of leans on because they feel better about the talent in that room, experience in that room, guys returning. So maybe one of the tight ends, but maybe the run game in general, just because Tennessee has traditionally ran it well under Josh Heupel.
This question and Hobbs, reasoning, I'm picking Syracuse now. Yeah.
Zjsvols, SEC True Road games in Week 1, scores, intriguing matchups. Grant and I actually went through this already, or we will, go through this in our Game Quest podcast. So AP and Brent, quick little thoughts on Texas at Ohio State.
To me, I mean, all the pressure's on Texas. Ohio State's got 2 new coordinators, new quarterback. They're coming off the title, even though it's at their house. I mean, Texas is the anointed one. They're supposed to run through this whole thing. I mean, they're going to be everybody's. I mean, who else is getting picked to win the title besides Texas? When you read national pundits out there, so on the road, I mean, I think Texas probably wins. But I mean, this is Arch Manning everything he's said to be on the road and in that environment. Lots of unknowns with Ohio State coming off a championship year. I would take Texas, but again, I think all the pressure's on Texas.
Bama, Florida State, AP.
The pressure's on Alabama. What pressure is there on Florida State? I mean, you look at Florida State coming off a 2-10 year. I mean, they kind of get to. I mean, it's not a whole lot of fun when your first game back after 2-10 and you're trying to rebuild. It's like, oh, let's go play this Alabama team, which had their worst year in forever, and they're trying to get back. But still, to me, there's no pressure on Florida State though. But there is some pressure on Alabama. I mean, I think there's pressure on both. But a lot less on Florida State. Florida State feels like this amount of pressure. Alabama's got a lot more pressure on them. Alabama is kind of a sexy pick by some to potentially win this league, Hobbs.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more pressure on Mike Norvell and Florida State than you want to give them credit for, just because they're coming off a 2-10. I mean, you got to look competent. I mean, they didn't look competent at times last year. They spent money back in the portal for immediate help. They did not go, Grant, with a rebuild of, hey, we're trying to build this thing over the next couple of years. We're going to throw money at guys who are leaving other programs. I mean, they've got 3 starters from Tennessee's program on the roster for Week 1. I think that they tried to fix it in the portal, which adds to some of the pressure. And I mean, they cannot have bad quarterback play again. And Mike Norvell come to that post-game press conference with no answers again. So I do think there's maybe not to win it, but Florida State's got to show a pulse, which they didn't show at times last year.
Signs of life. There better be signs of life from that program. Even if you forget winning the game or whatever, there just better be signs that you can point to that this is going to be a better football. Obviously, 2024 was a disaster for them. Half their stadium was shut down. They were renovating. They were losing Dublin to start the year, all that stuff. It's a 2-win season. You better show signs of life. It doesn't have to be, were they undefeated in 2023 before they lost their quarterback and got left out of the playoff? Is that right? It's got to be something closer to that, signs of life that you're getting off the mat and you can respond.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, I mean, Alabama's easily favored in this game. As I mentioned, they're a trendy pick to potentially win this league. Like, they have to show well. Like, if they come out against Florida State program coming off 2-10 and barely skirt by or potentially lose, that would be a terrain wreck for them. So if you're Alabama, wins win. I say that every time in one of these games. Look at Tennessee against Pittsburgh in 2022. I always draw back to that one because nobody saw that team winning the games they won against Florida, Bama at home, and LSU on the road just a few weeks later. But, when you're picked to win something and you're going up against a team that's coming off the season they just had, you would expect them to be a lot more crisp, a lot more fluid than maybe potentially Florida State, who, as Hub said, has so many transplants in there. What kind of continuity do they have early?
We actually touched on Auburn at Baylor on the Tuesday podcast. I would love for Southern Miss to make it close against Mississippi State, which Mississippi State's on the road at Southern Miss, which is really weird. State better win that one handily, but we'll see. The last one I want to highlight here, two of the better quarterbacks in the entire country. One of the premier games of the weekend. There's a couple of really good matchups, but obviously Battle of Death Valleys, LSU at Clemson. Brent, this one's got star power written all over it. And again, two of the better quarterbacks, two experienced quarterbacks in the country. Yeah,
the question is, can LSU do something they haven't done? They have not won an opening game since before the COVID season. Mm-hmm. They've lost 5 straight to start the year, all of them against Power 4 opponents. They lost to Florida State twice. They lost to UCLA. They lost to Southern Cal, and they've lost them every way possible in the kicking game, mental mistakes, everything else. So I think if you're an LSU fan, the question you're asking is, can we avoid this rolling start to a season that we've had for the last 5 years? Now, kudos to LSU, Grant. They're playing big-time opponents. They're not rolling. They're not having a rolling start against McNeese State, and some other people to kind of figure things out. I mean, they're jumping right into the fire. They've just gotten burned badly with some really poor play in an opener. Can they play clean football on Saturday night at Clemson?
I would have lost a lot of money if I had to answer that question. When was the last time LSU did not start a season 0-1? I had no idea of that streak. I remember them losing to USC. I remember those Florida State losses. I had no idea they had connected that. That makes Saturday night even tougher when it was already tough. But in this day and age, you can lose 2 games and maybe 3 games, depending on who you are and what your schedule looks like, and still be a playoff team. So maybe get it out of the way early if that's the case.
Snaps for Jamal Wallace, Nathan Robinson, and when do you think Hobbs returns?
Predicting stats?
No,
snaps.
Snaps.
Yeah. Yes, I think Jamal Wallace definitely plays. I think Nathan Robinson will play in some form or fashion, even with a club on his hand. And then, sorry, I just misheard. However, I would lean that he maybe knocks the rust off against UAB and plays against Mississippi State. If not, I would expect Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think for Hobbs, it just depends on how things go the next couple of weeks. He's supposed to be in the aqua sizer, in the water treadmill, I think next week. And, how quickly does he come back? You can't rush him back from that deal. So that would probably be my guess right now. It's hard for me to see him being back ready to go for Georgia, but we'll see how the rehab goes.
Vols Forever 901. How do you think Legend Bey's game projects at the college level? Will he be an elite slot receiver, a running back, or more of a hybrid? Also, why hasn't he gotten an extra star for having such an epic name?
I don't know. I mean, he projects as a receiver who they can kind of use as a toy. So, I mean, I wouldn't call him a full hybrid, but at the same time, they can use him in a number of different ways. It's hard to truly project him because he does play quarterback at the high school level. And, he's one, if you're Kelsey Pope, if you're Josh Heupel, you got to stay on him because he's down there in the state of Texas all year long. It's not easy for him to get to Knoxville. They'll try to get him up here for a game or something at some point, obviously. But, that's one where Texas A&M and other schools are going to keep, leaning on him. So it's one you got to kind of stay on top of and not forget about. I don't think they're going to forget about him, but my point is you have to kind of stay on top of that one. But either way, he is a fantastic athlete with all kinds of explosiveness.
Nashville 615's got a couple. The first one, the 9-game SEC schedule, feels like the first win for fans in quite a while. However, why even consider South Carolina as the third permanent rival for us? It seems like neither side really wants it. They are arguably 8th in the pecking order of historic rivals for Tennessee. My question, Brent, is where do you draw the line? Because again, you have to make this work for all 16 programs. So there are going to be a team, in the 3 that is not quote unquote a rival. I mean, at some point you got to draw the line somewhere. So I know South Carolina's kind of been rumored. I know that was kind of the hot team that was linked with Tennessee a couple of years ago. But I don't think it's going to be 3 straight rivals for everybody. I think it's going to be a rival or 2 and then just kind of a random.
Well, everybody doesn't have 3 rivals, so it can't be 3 rival teams. Here's what the league says, Grant, that they're going to do this based on historical rivalries. They're going to do this based on geography, and they're going to do it based on competitive balance. Somebody's not going to be happy at the end of the day. There are going to be a lot of coaches unhappy. They're going to feel like this other team has an advantage. This one doesn't have an advantage. It's like Texas A&M. Okay, if you're going to do geography, Texas A&M and LSU should play every year, right? So, but Texas A&M and Texas should play every year. Big brother, little brother, all those things. All right, well, who's their third? Well, they're going to scream. Texas A&M is going to be like, wait a minute. I get these two and then somebody else? Auburn's going, wait a minute. We get Georgia and Alabama and somebody else? So there's going to be a lot of people. That's why, you know, it's going to be hard. The competitive balance part and keeping the rivalries are going to be the real challenge here. I think some rivalries are going to go, some quote rivalries are going to go away in order to keep competitive balance. Some are a mainstay, right? Georgia, Auburn's going to play each other. Tennessee, Alabama's going to play each other. The Egg Bowl's going to happen, Grant. But I think something's going to get compromised because I think at the end of the day, the league's going to lean back more towards competitive balance than anything else.
Yeah, it's because the number's 3 because there's too many teams with 2 rivalries, and you need that third one for what you're talking about, that competitive balance. There's going to be why would South Carolina be considered? I guess because it's a more regional opponent, because it's a game that was played every year between 1992 and 2023. It feels like it was strange last season not having South Carolina on the schedule. I agree, it's not a historical rival, but that's not going to be the end-all be-all in terms of trying to figure this thing out. It's going to be trying to get that competitive balance and fairness across the board. Florida would be obviously above South Carolina in that pecking order. Kentucky would be the most obvious answer, but they're not going to give Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky to go with Alabama. So it's going to be a lot of – they could. It's going to be a lot of 2 rivals, two obvious rivals, and a third thrown in for a lot of teams.
You mentioned competitive balance. I mean, if you're talking competitive balance, South Carolina makes the most sense of any team we've mentioned here, right? Because they're kind of middle. You know, they're middle to upper, but, you know, Vanderbilt bottom, Alabama top, South Carolina middle. You know, for Tennessee, like that's just a perfect example of what competitive balance would be.
Now some people would say South Carolina, Kentucky, not a whole lot of difference there, right? Some people also are projecting South Carolina to get Georgia and Florida. Well, they're not going to get Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Again, I think somebody's going to be upset and somebody's going to be unhappy because they're going to feel like they are playing that their competitive balance is out of balance with their other opponents in this league. And that's where the gnashing of the teeth will.
Because when you have a couple of schools, as you pointed out, like, you know, LSU or Auburn, or heck, even Alabama, who end up with 2 heavyweights or two conference blue bloods, or however you want to describe it, right? You're naturally going to have somebody that only has 1 and has 2 kind of middle of the road to below the line type teams. I mean, who are Missouri's 3 going to be? Who are Arkansas's 3 going to be? Who are Kentucky's 3 going to be? Like, you start rolling down those lists, and you're like, you know, I mean, that's like, is it really fair? And I think they're going to have a tough time getting to, you know, competitive balance as you guys describe it because of that, because there are going to be 2 or 3 teams due to long-standing rivalries that end up with harder trios. But here's the thing. I think everybody's getting caught up in the permanent opponents without realizing that when you're rotating the other 6 every year, basically, like, you're going to have a murderer's row really regardless of what you have. Like, let's say you don't have them permanently, like, you're still going to get, you know, Texas and Auburn and LSU and Florida. Like, let's say Tennessee went with South Carolina. Let's go with that theory, right, as the third. You're still going to end up with all these really good teams on your schedule, and so is everybody else. I think, you know, and if you didn't, then you would just rotate off of Mississippi State or a Vanderbilt or Kentucky or one of those teams. So it's going to be really, really tough regardless to get to the playoff in this league unless you are a really, really good football team.
You could also argue, if you're Tennessee or Danny White or whoever, that Tennessee has paid the piper for 30 years playing Florida and Georgia and Alabama. I mean, Georgia and Alabama, what's the comment that comes around like every 870 years? It feels like Haley's comment when Georgia and Alabama play because it's just so rare. Georgia never goes to Gainesville. Florida never goes to Athens. Like, it feels like Tennessee's been on the pretty rough end of this ever since they went to divisions, and it was usually Florida and Georgia back-to-back to start the SEC schedule in September for Tennessee. It felt like more often than not. So if Tennessee gets what's considered an easy schedule, I think you could argue that Tennessee's put its time in playing pretty tough opponents.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you always had those 3, Eric, and then for whatever reason, like, Tennessee would play like Ole Miss having their best year in like a decade. Like, they always would like run into these teams like when they were having their come up year, and then when they would be off the schedule. They go back to not.
They went to Starkville when I think Mississippi State was undefeated. That might have been the year that they went to number one. What year was that? I can't remember. But they went to Oxford when Ole Miss was really good.
Extra.
What was that? 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what, everybody's going to complain about something. And
Yes.
like Grant brought it up, right? I mean, Tennessee's literally had Alabama and Georgia every year. Florida has been good several times throughout this stretch since '92. Obviously, like everybody's going to cry, and they're not going to remember like, oh, this team already played these teams every single year. Like it's going to be a crapshoot, but I'm here for it. It's going to be fun.
I do like that in a 4-year cycle, the fans can get to every school in the league. I do like the fact that we as us four only have to go to Columbia, Missouri once out of every 4 years instead of once out of every 2 years. That is a huge win for us. So
I'm glad you said fans and us and not players, because players hardly ever stick around for 4
there you
years.
go. That's kind of what I was thinking. But some of them might, but most of them won't.
You've got a new look position room at running back, quarterback, safety, wide receiver, and offensive line. You're not going to bat 1,000 all SEC on every one. Which ones do you expect the biggest hits, and which ones will be misses of these new position rooms for Tennessee?
Yeah, I read this question. The first thing I did is I took running back off the equation because, I mean, you know who Deshaun Bishop is, and you've seen Peyton Lewis, so they're not necessarily brand new to me. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that they're probably better on the O-line than I thought they were going to be at this point. Now we'll see how that plays out on Saturday. I think the biggest unknown out of that entire group is the quarterback position. I mean, you either hit or are you just okay there, or does it not work? I mean, that's the one that I keep coming back to because it's one player. You know, you look at the safety position. I mean, Andre Turrentine started every game last year. You know what you have with one of your two safeties. Wide receiver's an unknown, but to me, the biggest unknown all that is just the quarterback spot. That's how I kind of look at that one.
I don't go running back either. For our collective sanity, I hope it's not quarterback. Wide receiver, it feels like it's just got to be such a perfect world scenario because you're so thin there. Like, not only do you need these young guys to grow up in a hurry, but you can't afford just the most minor injury that's going to cost somebody a couple of weeks or whatever. Like, you can't really afford any of that. You need to find 3 guys that you can roll with and just hope they stay healthy start to finish.
Pine, prediction time. Who makes the playoffs from the SEC and who wins the national championship?
Everybody's supposed to say Texas, right?
Supposed to.
Texas, Georgia, Alabama better because they're not going to tolerate many Citrus Bowl appearances in this new era with them. I picked Tennessee to go.
There you go. I was going to say, of all people, it needs to be said, it should be you.
I picked Tennessee to go 10-2, so give me Tennessee.
Yeah, 10-2, Tennessee's in, right?
Do you guys think the SEC gets 3 or 4? I know it dictates as the season goes along, but are you picking 3 or 4 teams to get in?
I would say 3 right now.
No, that's bad news for me.
That would be my initial thought.
I mean, LSU is going to be in the conversation, obviously. I don't know who else, but
if LSU's not, Brian Kelly should be fired. Point blank.
That's true.
I mean, the guy has done less with more than anybody in this country, anybody in this college football. They return so much. I mean, I'm high on LSU this year. So if LSU's not in the playoff, I mean, he should be fired.
It's been a strange bit since he faked his Baton Rouge accent, his Bayou accent in that one introduction at a basketball game or whatever it was.
What was the season opening loss? Was it I can't remember. Was it USC or Florida? It was USC, right?
USC in Vegas last year.
Do you remember his little post game rant? Everybody thought that was super, super weird. Well, yeah, any given Saturday, it was all theatrics. I mean, guy's such a bum, dude. I swear. But got a good team. Got a good team coming back. They should be good. But if he doesn't hold him
Eric
back,
Kane unloading the clip.
I
did not expect.
I didn't have that one on my bingo card today. Obviously, not a fan.
Listen, the LSU fans are already mad because I'm talking about Tristan Keys not ending up at LSU. Now you really made them mad talking about. Actually, you may have united them because they don't only get like Brian Kelly.
I mean,
but again, are they going to be mad at me for my hatred of, or be happy with my hatred of him, or because I've said LSU should be good? I don't know. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here.
I don't know if Tristan Keys listens to the Mailbag podcast, but if he does, you want to go play for a bum?
Yeah, come on now. That should be the deciding factor. What I just said. What team is the most overrated team going into the season, and what team is the most underrated team going into the season? He didn't specify SEC, but SEC or college football in general.
I need to see Clemson go back to being the Clemson that they've been at the height of the Dabo era. It just feels like it's been a minute. Like I think they've got all the talent in the world, and I don't blame people for ranking them as high as they've ranked them and expecting them to play at such a high level like they are expected. But I just kind of need to see it to believe that they're going to get back to that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what this revamped Ohio State team looks like. I'm with you on Clemson. I think that's why the LSU game is important, because I think after that their schedule kind of lightens up a little bit, because I don't think the ACC's all of that. What's the Carson Beck experience at Miami like?
There you
go. Does Arizona State have the magic that they had a year ago? I know they got the quarterback coming back, but now everybody kind of knows who they are. What did they look like? Those are a couple there. I think that Illinois team's got a chance to be pretty doggone good now. Now they're different. They play a different style of football than everybody else seems to be playing. I mean, they're still in the old school. You know, they're going to throw it with Altmaier, but I mean, they're going to run it.
3 tight ends, baby.
I think Illinois is kind of that would be my surprise. Not surprise, because they're getting some love there, but I think Illinois has got a shot in the Big Ten. Because I just think, I don't know that Ohio State, while they've got a ton of talent, I don't know that you go through all the turnover they've gone through and you just keep rolling the way you were rolling. I think Jim Knowles was a terrific defensive coordinator. I think Chip Kelly obviously did a lot to get things going with that offense last year. So exactly what they look like with new coordinators, new personnel, I think is they could be really good and keep rolling right along, or they could be a real surprise in the wrong direction.
The question is, because I don't think Illinois got the cushy schedule that Indiana had last year. Are they this year's Indiana, or are they just someone who spoils someone else's season because they are capable every Saturday of beating one of those top teams up at the top? Are they somebody that plays spoiler, which hurts the Big Ten? Indiana didn't play spoiler to hurt the Big Ten. They elevated the Big Ten. Can Indiana elevate, or do they just be a spoiler? Because you're right, they're going to be good enough to where they'll sneak up on somebody and give them an extra loss.
I like this one here from Will Smith. He said that he's asked us.
Hope's got some. Go for it, Hope.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I like their schedule. They got Ohio State, Indiana. I think their schedule. I mean, they don't play. I don't think they do have Washington. They don't play many ranked opponents, so I think that they've got a chance to be. Not the spoiler. I think they've got a chance that somebody has to spoil their party, because I think they're going to be favored, with the exception of Ohio State. I think they may be favored in every Big Ten game they play this year.
So they played Nico.
They do not. They play SC, play Washington, Indiana. You know, so I don't.
So the only one of the big three in the Big Ten, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, they play Ohio State. That's it.
That's correct.
Home Field Apparel, the exclusive apparel sponsor of Volquest.com. Football season, guys, it's here. We've made it. It's game week. Round of applause. You can smell the football in the air. It's a little cooler this week here in East Tennessee as well. And if you're heading on out to Neyland Stadium this fall, be sure to be decked out in style thanks to Home Field Apparel. If you're going down to Atlanta this weekend for the season opener against Syracuse, make sure you're decked out in style thanks to Home Field Apparel. With Can't Miss Kickoff 2025 campaign, you can get a football boxes. Look at it right here. It's a little worn here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it because I've been in this box so much. I've kind of messed it up a little bit. But you got football boxes, coaching jackets, bomber jackets, and more. The football boxes, never before seen items for the University of Tennessee that are not available anywhere else. Curated so fans can have new gear to wear all season long, suitable for all weather conditions. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, by the way, look at this box. Look at the inside. Look at the inside. That's so cool, isn't it? Look at this. Look at this hoodie right here. This is the back of the hoodie. This is the front of the hoodie, keeping you warm, stylish. Look at this short sleeve tee, orange. It's football time in Tennessee, national championships. It's got all the national championships listed at the bottom here. If you're like Auburn, Tennessee could add on a few more, but there's plenty of room here on this shirt, no doubt. And then this is probably my favorite, long sleeve black tee. Okay, back-to-back SEC champions, 97 to 98. Oh my gosh, look at that. vintage. You see this? Home Field Apparel specializes collegiate apparel based in Indianapolis that focuses on creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college design. It's what I call vintage right here. Vintage college designs. There's a wide range of available colleges, but of course, you're going to want Tennessee. As I showed you right here, this is the best stuff right here. So go to homefieldapparel.com to get started today. Check out this can't miss kickoff box right here. I've showed you the stuff. Go get it for yourself. That's homefieldapparel.com. Will Smith has a pretty good question. He's asked us this in years past, but not the last couple of years. It says, which two jersey numbers do you guys think will have the best year? Take number 6, the quarterback, out of the equation. So Aguilar, McMurray out of the equation, but 1 is like Ricky Gibson, Travis Smith. 4 is Mike Matthews, Ty Redmond, like that conversation. Which two jersey numbers, that tandem, do you guys think will have the best year?
I was told there would be no math on the podcast. How many more double jersey numbers are there besides 1 and 4?
Several.
You want me to go down the list? Ethan
Davis.
Davis.
Run me some guys that are going to play.
Ethan Davis and William Wright are 0.
Okay.
You didn't add the second part in until I was too late. Peyton Lewis and Andre Turndine. I think that would be my pick. McCoy and Van Dorsler, number 3. They mentioned number 4, 5, Rodarius Jackson, David Hobbs, 6, Aguilar, McMurray, Deshaun Bray, Marion Carter, 7, Marion Dye, Star Thomas, 9. Or maybe my pick is 13, Edwin Spillman and Mason Phillips.
Here's a good one. Here's a sneaky good one. Ethan Utley and Chris Brazel, number 17.
I like that.
I think the combos you're seeing though is like, even if it's a proven player or a semi-proven player, it's a young guy that you just wonder how many snaps is Brame going to get? How many snaps is Van Dorsler going to get, or Ty Redmond, or Ethan Utley? I think Utley's going to get play. The rest, I think that's to be determined on how the guys.
What about Deshaun Bishop and Tyree Weathersby, number 18?
There you go. There's your number. You just picked it. Yep, I will take that firm.
I'm sticking with number 13, Mason Phillips, and whoever the other one was, Edwin Spillman.
Friday Northview, they got hammered last Friday night.
As we've all pointed out too, Travis Smith is going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So like Travis Smith and Ricky Gibson could also be a good one.
My for real pick would be number 2, Turrentine, and whoever the number 2 was.
Peyton Lewis.
Lewis.
I would be leading with the Peyton Lewis pick there, but Turrentine's going to be on the field at times.
Very confident in my pick when I can't remember the jersey number.
All right. Vol fan 89. Which draft eligible player do you think will improve their stock the most this season? Anyone have the potential to be a first round ascension like we saw with Jermod McCoy last year?
Maybe Ricky Gibson, Hobbs. He's been on 20-something pounds. He plays well enough this year against some decent receivers, then I could see it.
And a position that the NFL is always looking for. They're looking for a corner if they believe that there's a corner that can play. So, same thing for an offensive tackle. If Lance Hurd, 20 pounds less, really took off, then he could certainly ascend up the charts. No one had Darnell Wright as a first-round pick going into that season. Nobody had him at a top 10 pick, but a lot of people thought, hey, there's a chance Darnell might come back, and I'm like, no, he's not. There's no chance he's coming back. But that's a guy who kind of popped up out of nowhere that year in 22.
Ricky Gibson, AP's in my head today. We're on the same wavelength today for whatever reason. I think Ricky, because of what Willie Martinez said a couple of weeks ago, how strong Ricky finished last year, if he can pick up where that left off and what Tennessee needs at that position.
I immediately thought Ricky Gibson because he's good at a position that, like Brent said, they're always looking for. And then I thought Lance Hurd. Like, if it clicks for him and he has a good season, the dude is a mountain. And he also is moving around better right now. So my mind just went straight to those guys. What player could be the surprise of the season at a national level when they watch Tennessee games? I guess kind of on that same wavelength. Ricky Gibson wouldn't be a surprise. We know he's a good player. Any surprises, breakout players, I guess, for Tennessee?
I think from a national level standpoint, nobody's going to be doing a deep dive into looking at, until at the end of the season. So I think you immediately turn towards a skill position player, or unless there's a DB that just makes a ton of plays, Mike Matthews, if he puts it all together and stays healthy, he could put up numbers. What about the slot position? The numbers in the slot and the the decline in production at the slot position was really fascinating when you look at what Velus Jones did in year one. We obviously all know what happened in year two with Jalen Hyatt. Squirrel healthy had, I think, 800 yards in 23. They got less than 400 yards out of the slot position last year, which is just mind-boggling in Josh Heupel's offense because the slot is the productive position. They're the guy that gets the ball thrown their way a bunch typically. That position, that production's got to get better. That's not the answer to the question, but whoever that guy is has got to put up some real numbers at the slot spot because to get back to where they want to, unless they're going to live in two tights.
I would go running back. I think nationally people are going to look for who's going to replace Dylan Sampson, who's going to be that guy. Whoever steps up and has the most running back production, the starter, whatever, whoever's first in that rotation.
What would it take for Tennessee to even scratch the top 5 in recruiting this cycle? I've seen posts from other sites where they believe Tennessee still has a really good shot at finishing top 5.
Well, one, they need to flip Tristan Keys because he's, top 15 player nationally, 5-star, and that would obviously send them flying up with a big jump. And then, can they land a guy like Hezekiah Harris? Do they flip anybody else down the stretch of high star rating potential?
They would have to flip more than one to get to the top 5, right, AP?
Yes. And again, a lot of it, it starts and ends with Keys. The only path to top 5 is Keys plus somebody else. Is that Hezekiah Harris who's going to do something on September 1st? I don't know what Hayes put on the board, and I get Hayes makes the graphics a lot of times. I think Tennessee's in a good spot there, but a lot can change between now and September 1st. So, I think for Coach Chop and Tennessee, it's about keeping the momentum with a guy like Hezekiah Harris through September 1st and then well into when you sign him in December. And then who else do they look up and go, man, that guy's got – we need an interior defensive lineman, and that school's struggling. Let's try to go get that guy. He's a really good player. Like, that's the stuff you're going to look for this fall. It's like, what does Tennessee need in their current class? What do they feel like they need? And then who can they go cherry pick from some other school that's committed to them that is a really good player, but that school's struggling and may have a coaching change, and you might be able to kind of crack the door open a little bit.
MiamiJoe, does Tommy Winton get any meaningful snaps this season?
I think he will early on. I mean, a ton. I don't know about a ton, but I think he'll get that spot duty here and there. Now, they may also go 2 tight ends and take the slot receiver off the field in some games. But if you're asking me, do I think Tommy Winton plays in the first 2 games of the season? Austin, my guess right now would be yes, that you'll see him the first couple of weeks. And then what adjustments offensively do they make after that? I mean, does Mike Matthews become a slot guy if they have to rotate and do some things? Do they live in 2 tights, or is Tommy Winton proven to them that they can trust him and they can play him some in spot duty?
Yeah, I think he'll play. I don't know how much he'll play.
Agreed.
I'm always hesitant with any of that stuff just because you get into the flow of the game and, who a position coach throws out there, in those instances, sometimes I'm surprised by it. So I don't want to sit here and say he's not going to play. I also don't want to sit here and say he's going to play all these.
Agreed. I think, again, first 2 games, I think there's a chance you see him in the first 2 games, and then what does it look like moving forward after that is an unknown to me.
Tommy was a really good player at Catholic, and probably could have went to an Eastern Kentucky, those type of places. Ended up going to ETSU.
Was an all-conference player as a freshman at ETSU,
and had one of the worst tragedies, like with his whole family. Mom, dad, the whole thing, like just a really sad story. And so I'm rooting for that kid, man. I get he's a really good kid, and if he can get anything, that's more than probably what he expected when he decided to just come over here and be a walk on and those type of things. And so he's a cool story. I know a lot of people don't know a lot about him. If you get on Twitter or X, if you can search for it, he makes a ridiculous catch. Eric, I think you were on the sidelines at the time instead of in the booth against Powell his senior year, like behind the back. I don't know. It was wild kind of catch by Tommy Winton over there. So he's got some talent. He's better than people are letting on the board.
Here's the other thing too. Nobody knows it, but he played basically every special team squad last year.
Hmm?
So he played. It's not like he's You just didn't hear about him because he was a special teams guy. So he's played under the lights in SEC games before, just not on offense. Now, that's a big difference. I get that. But it's not like he rolled in from Johnson City in the spring, and here he is. I mean, he's been on this team and has been a player and has traveled and been a part of everything. So he understands kind of what the magnitude of all this stuff is. Now, what opportunities we get, we'll see. But I think he's tried to take and has taken full advantage of the opportunities he's got in preseason camp. And with Staley being out, he's gotten a bunch of them in the slot. A bunch.
Good old Joel Klatt is at it again, claiming UT orchestrated.
Sounds like he's on your Brian Kelly Christmas card club there, Eric Kane.
Not as much as Brian Kelly, but I wouldn't call me a fan. But nonetheless, he's orchestrated a propaganda campaign against Nico, saying it wasn't about the money. Anybody have any thoughts about that? I watched the video last night. I mean, it's just to get views, in my opinion.
Joe Klatt is you want my Joe Klatt is a sheep for the Big Ten. Okay, that guy, he is like Danny Cannell. Listen, you can say the Ohio State's really good, you can say USC's really good or Clemson's really good. That's called objectivity. Having this, he is just so whatever he can do to knock an SEC school. And anybody with a brain knows that Nico didn't go to UCLA for their offense. He went to UCLA because he had no other options to get paid. And so it was let's just go closer to home. None of those schools. He tried to go to Oregon. That didn't work out. All his people called Oregon deep into the wintertime. I think that ultimately Nico made the decision and their camp, well, Nico didn't make any decision. Their camp made the decision when they held out of 2 winter workouts in February and told Tennessee they were holding out. When they decided to come back, I think they were gone at that point. He went through the motions in spring to get through the spring, and then early in the week of this orange and white game told multiple teammates he was transferring. So, again, you didn't go for the money. You just call it what it was. You went to try to get a payday. It didn't work out. You went to UCLA, and, I hope you have success. I mean, sometimes marriages just don't work out. You got to wish the other person well and just move on and forget about it. And Tennessee's got a quarterback that wants to be here, and you get behind them and see what happens.
Here would be my thing on that particular deal. And I watched the video. Tennessee orchestrated a campaign against Nico.
He took the high road. I mean,
right.
The high road.
But my question to this is, where is Joel getting all of his information? Is it from the camp that's got a campaign maybe now against Tennessee? You know what I'm saying? It just look. It was a divorce. It's happened.
That's right.
He's getting paid, not as much as he wanted. He's closer to home. Good luck to him, and good luck to Joey Aguilar, and let's go play football.
Rocky Top Rowdy 58, the 4th defensive tackle while Hobbs is out. Is that going to be Utley or Robinson or Jamal Wallace?
I think Utley may start out as the 3rd defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Eason Moy, Utley,
Robinson,
3rd, Wallace. I will tell you, I still think that in a pinch, when push comes to shove, they will shove Dominic Bailey inside and say, Tyree Weathersby, get in there. Maybe shove Tyree West inside. There's options there for Rodney Garner.
Yeah, let's not forget Tyree West, as early as his freshman season, was in Rabbits package playing inside. So, I mean, it's not a foreign concept for these guys. During Heupel's tenure, he's had a tendency to lose, to have one brutal road loss each year. Is this the year he can overcome that? If not, where do you think that loss could come?
That's the one thing I keep looking at, Hobbs. And when I made my season prediction, I did it based off it. Maybe I did it saying they were going to drop the Oklahoma game, but even then, that seems like that's a home game. That he's had this hiccup, when you look at this schedule, it's what's the hiccup of a weird game this year? They really going to lose at Kentucky against that squad? I don't see that. And then Mississippi State's probably the one I worry about, just because they're wearing those ice jerseys, and is the game end up being a night game? And it's just kind of got some weird feel to it. I don't know. It's harder to make a case for a weird hiccup. But then I didn't think they were going to hiccup last year at Arkansas after they had that huge emotional win at Oklahoma, and yet they did.
I mean, you better win in Starkville. You better not let that Mississippi State team hang around, because it's just tough to win on the road regardless of opponent.
Yep.
Looking at Alabama and Vanderbilt last year, if you let a team hang around long enough, if you let a team start fast or make mistakes early, then you can dig yourself a hole that you can't get out of. Kentucky, it feels like Heupel's had Kentucky's number. I don't think Kentucky's very good, but it's also, I think, it's back-to-back trips to Alabama and Kentucky. So you're coming off a trip to Tuscaloosa. I think that's going to be that could make it tougher than maybe it just looks on paper. But again, like you look at 2024, you weren't circling that Arkansas game I wasn't at least, you don't have a hiccup here because I just didn't think it would happen.
What do you think of all the Heupel skill players don't translate to the NFL conversation that's been ramped up this week?
Well, Hendon Hooker got cut, and Hendon Hooker was really good at Tennessee. I guess he got waived. But at the same time, no offense, Virginia Tech, he wasn't exactly on the fast track to the NFL draft based on his Virginia Tech career.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, and maybe some of them haven't had enough time, we'll see. They've got more defensive player success in the NFL and the Josh Heupel tenure than they have offensive player success right now. I mean, Joe Milton's going to make the Cowboys roster. Cedric Tillman, I think, has a chance to have if he can stay healthy, he had a really good close before he had the concussion last year, was playing really well. I think he can do some things on a bad Browns team. Jalen Hyatt's still the mystery at this point that there's not a lot of buzz that somebody thinks he's going to be, all of that. Maybe Dylan Sampson. We'll see what happens with Jalen Wright in Miami. They've got some guys on rosters, but they haven't had the impact that the defensive guys seemingly have had outside of Darnell Wright, who's an everyday starter. But he was asking about skill players. I mean, Josh Heupel needs a skill player to hit. He does. It would help him because that narrative is not going to go away until somebody becomes, hey, he was prepared, he was developed at Tennessee for the National Football League. I think the narrative's overblown to a degree, but I don't think it's going to go away until we see somebody hit.
Could Dante Thornton dismiss that this year or help in that argument against him?
He could, but some people will go, then why wasn't he more productive at Tennessee? They need their best skill guys that come out to hit in the National Football League. Their most productive guys they need to hit. You were hoping it would be Velus Jones. He's on his 7th NFL team or whatever it is now. It didn't work. They need somebody who was really productive here. I mean, Dante Thornton would not be described as the most prolific receiver that Josh Heupel's had. So it would help, but they need Dylan Sampson. They need a guy who is the kind of the bell cow for their offense to go translate and have some success in the National Football League to silence that or to quiet that narrative down.
Two things that help with Tillman and Hyatt. They will throw it all over the lot with Flacco. That's what he does. He's going to throw it 50 times a game a lot of times. I mean, he may throw 6 picks, but he throws when he's on, he throws a lot of touchdowns. So that's going to help a guy like Cedric Tillman. And then on the other side with New York, they've had terrible quarterback play. I don't think Russell Wilson's great, but the one thing Russell Wilson does do is throw the deep ball really well. You go back to his time in Seattle, he's always thrown the deep ball well. That, to me, gives Hyatt a chance because he is a guy that can stretch the field.
I think Thornton might hurt you more than he helps you just because he was talking during the process about how Tennessee doesn't have the same route tree as everybody else and how you got to go back to Oregon tape to see some of his more NFL routes, or maybe it was the distances on his routes, some of the stuff that he was running there compared to what he was asked to do at Tennessee. I also think Dante kind of has a little, I don't want to call him Joe Milton, but he looks really good in the camp. Does he look that good when the lights are on? Because we heard some crazy stuff about Dante when he got to Tennessee and how good he was going to be and what he was going to do in this offense and all this stuff. Does that translate with the Raiders in the NFL as a rookie?
Over under for the season. Offensive point per game, 33 points and a half, 33.5. Taking the over or the under?
Over, because they averaged 35 last year, and I know that's buoyed by 71 against Kent State and 69 against Chattanooga, and they had 412 points in the first half of that Kent State game and all that stuff. But you were also shut out 3 times in the first half of games, and it was a struggle a lot. So I would hope they would at least match that average from last year. So I'd go over 33. I think I would go under 23.5 because
I would go under 23.5.
You're going to have to be really good on defense.
All right, We'll get a couple more here. Who gets more snaps on Saturday? Caleb Herring or Jordan Ross?
I'm going to say Caleb Herring.
I think it's a push. I think it's somewhat of a push. I think it's going to be really close. I think give or take 1 or 2 snaps. I think that's how close the rotation will be between those 2 players.
Here's my rationale. If they go rabbits, I think they get 2 Leos on the field, and you might see Caleb Herring basically playing strong side defensive end with another Leo, so he might get a few more snaps. That's my rationale. How's that sound?
That's fair.
Okay.
Makes sense. Last question. If you had to predict Sunday's massive overreactions, what is your massive overreaction positive prediction and your massive overreaction negative prediction for Sunday morning?
Positive prediction is this is an elite defense. They're going to be really, really good. Negative overreaction is not enough tempo, not enough explosive plays. How's that? I have no idea. That's just that is a random whatever. I don't know.
I'll take a more direct approach on defense. I think that people are going to be talking about Colton Hood and how Tennessee kind of fell into one out of spring with Jermod McCoy down. And then offensively, that Tennessee's in trouble if they get a lot of injured players at receiver. I think you're going to see the lack of depth there.
That's not an overreaction. That's a reality.
Maybe.
What if that right side that is brand new, young, gives up some pressures, maybe gives up a sack or something? I think there's going to be a lot of overreaction there, knowing that it's, game 1. There's a long way to go. Those guys are going to get better, but they're going to give a little too early on in their careers. And so I think that if they allow some pressures or a sack or whatever, I think there'll be a lot of overreaction about those young guys on the right side of the offensive line. Quarterback,
negative reaction, just because if you're not putting up Hendon Hooker 2022 numbers, you got a problem. If he too many 3-and-outs or throws an interception or whatever and just doesn't, if they don't have the tempo or pace that fans want, I think that'll be a negative reaction. Defensively, I think just would be the positive because the secondary can get it done for the time being without Jermod McCoy, or they keep kind of just progressing in what they've done 2023, 24, 25, like just putting up good numbers.
The fastest overreaction on Saturday will be the first incompleted deep ball.
Correct.
Yes.
That'll be the fastest overreaction.
If they go 3-and-out, it's going to be you pick the wrong quarterback.
Now, if they hit a deep ball early, it'll be the fastest overreaction on the
what we said on Tuesday. What should we go into what we said on Tuesday with the Casey Clausen game?
You hit one of those early, and everybody goes, "See, I told you there's the problem."
Another one will also be, Tennessee gives up a 3rd down. Typical Tim Banks defense,
which is a complete inaccurate reaction.
Completely inaccurate.
They were 30% last year.
Listen, the internet is no place for accurate reactions. Okay, no place.
Fun times ahead. College football season is here. Tennessee football takes on Syracuse Saturday at noon Eastern. It'll be televised on ABC, and of course, we'll have coverage for you every single step of the way right here. Volquest.com. We'll continue our game week coverage. We had tons of stuff yesterday, tons of video packages today. We'll have a matchup piece, 10 things I think coming up on Friday for Hobbs. We'll have the Game Quest podcast on Saturday. We'll have our picks on Friday. Lots and lots of game week content still to come this week as we get you set for Tennessee and Syracuse. And if you're watching us or listening to us right now and not a member of the site, thanks for hanging out. But man, you're missing a ton of stuff, ton of premium content, ton of news and notes dropped on the Journal's Quarters all the time. And you're missing out on the best Tennessee athletics online community there is in the Journal's Quarters. So come hang out with us. $1 for your first week. $1 for your first week at Volquest.com. For Brent Hobbs, Austin Price, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Kane. Game week rolls on. We will see you on the GQ later today. This is the Volquest Mailbag Podcast.